Good evening. This is Phil Dixon, baseball historian, coming to you live tonight from Kansas City. And I'm going to talk a little bit about baseball, this day in baseball, August 20th. And today is August 20th, 2025. And as always, we come on every night, talk a little baseball, and we talk a little bit about baseball history, just a bit. And we take you back, and I used to give you some events that happened on this day and then give you some commentary. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. So let's go to 1900, August 20th, 1900. Baltimore's Giants defeated the White Yanigans, third place finishers in the Baltimore City League, by a 5-1 score. The Yanigans had recruited the well-known pitcher Richard Stub Brown to no avail. So interesting name for that pitcher, Richard Stub Brown. When I think about Stubbs and Browns, of course, you got to think about Three Fingers Brown, who's pitched for the Chicago Cubs, and West Side Three Fingers Brown. In 1909, the Chicago Leland Giants played the Chicago Cubs intact, and the Cubs couldn't afford to lose that series to the Leland Giants, who were the city champions. So they pitched Mordecai Three Fingers Brown in two of those games. And one of those games is against Rube Foster, who made a comeback after being injured and being out all summer with a hairline fracture in his leg. He came back and pitched, and he had them down to the last inning. He should have went to a relief pitcher just to finish the game, but he wanted to finish it off himself and ended up losing that game. And so interesting series. I wrote about that in my book, The Chicago Leland Giants, Andrew Rube Foster in Chicago. I'm trying to think of the name of it. Oh, okay, the name of it was, shucks, I've written so many books, I had to think about that. But anyway, I wrote about that series, and I wrote about it in great detail, probably as much as anybody's coverage of that series, probably of that team ever. And so anyway, that's what I was thinking about when I was thinking about the pitcher they recruited to beat the Baltimore team, Stub Brown. Okay, let's go to another one. Let's do this one. August 20th, 1902. Although he struck out 12 men pitching for the Amherst Inn team of Swawiecki, Pennsylvania, Emmett Bowman lost a 3-2 game to the Leedsville, Pennsylvania team when the pitcher of that team struck out 18 men. Emmett and his brother George picked up 3 of his team's 8 hits. Okay, now most people probably don't know much about Emmett Bowman unless you really follow Negro League Baseball. But I tell you, this guy was a special athlete. Now, he didn't live long. I think he died around 1913, 1912, somewhere in there. But in 1905, this guy won 40 games for the Philadelphia Giants. Excellent pitcher. He did things that year that Rube Foster didn't achieve. And Rube Foster, we know that he was one of the greatest pitchers of that period, African-American pitchers for sure. And but I think Emmett Bowman might have been a little bit better that year. Now, Rube Foster had better control, so he had less walks. Emmett was known to kind of walk a few more batters than Rube. Sometimes he'd get his own self in trouble. But still, even with that, he was able to win 40 games. Now, if you go to the statistics online, you put in Emmett Bowman, and you put in the Philadelphia Giants in 1905, it won't show that total. Because when I do the research, I give you the real research. I give you the entire season. And so when you look at these numbers, what they've done is they decided that they're only going to pick out the games that black teams played against other black teams. But what they don't realize is some of the best competition wasn't from other black teams. As a matter of fact, in that year, the Philadelphia Giants played the Brooklyn Royal Giants. They did not play the Cuban X Giants. I think they played the genuine Cuban Giants in one game. And the Cuban team that was traveling the United States, I don't think they played them at all. Matter of fact, I know they didn't. But they had a lot of competition from a team. The Hoboken team was stacked with guys going up to the majors and coming down from the majors. Also, the Lynn, Massachusetts team, they were awfully tough. The Trenton team, Trenton, New Jersey team was tough. And these were really good teams. And I think you're short-circuiting the greatness of the Negro League players when you only take the games that they played against each other. You know, I think the audacity of that it doesn't make sense to me because it's not the true history. It's almost like, say, taking Major League Baseball, and so you only take the games, say you take the Royals, and you only take the games that they play against the Eastern team, say, or how about this? You just take the games they play against the Yankees and say, hey, they had a great season. And I don't like that approach, and I don't use that approach. But I think that it's important to take the entire history in its entirety and tell the story. So Emmett Bowman won 40 games that year. I tell you another picture that I've verified too, which was Frank Wickware, and for the 1910 Chicago Leland Giants, he also won 40 games. And Rube Foster, he won 40 games also in 1905. So playing for the same Philadelphia Giants team. So these were really good pitchers, and they deserve a better recognition than what they're getting. So anyway, I like to talk about them. But Emmett Bowman had a short career, but he had a good one. And how about this? He could also hit and play other positions. So when he wasn't pitching, he was a regular outfielder. He could play first base. And in some of those years, he actually pitched less and played other positions more. So, all right. So let's go to another one. Let's see. Okay, how about this one? August 20th, 1903. In African-American baseball action, the Hannibal, Missouri Jaybirds crushed the Jacksonville team by a 16-1 score at Hannibal's Athletic Park. And Albert, Fomenthal, the visitors' first baseman, broke a tooth when he was hit in the face with a baseball while batting. Okay, I guess that was unfortunate. Of course, Hannibal, Missouri, you know Hannibal, Missouri was Mark Twain's town. And most people have heard of Mark Twain. And I've actually presented in Hannibal. It's right down on the Mississippi River, down there across the river from Quincy, and not too far from Keokuk, Iowa, presented in all those places over the years. And so always nice to go down there. Actually, one time I gave a PowerPoint presentation, believe it or not, outdoors. And when I got down there, they wanted me to do a PowerPoint. They didn't have a screen, so we put a sheet up on the historical building, and I did a PowerPoint outdoors in the daytime, and just so happened that the front of the building was in the shade. And so, hey, we get the job done. We do whatever it takes. I can't remember what year that was, but yeah, that was definitely Hannibal, Missouri. I won't forget that for a while. So let's go to one more. Let's do a couple of more. How about this one? August 20th, 1934, Grover Cleveland Alexander's House of David defeated the Kansas City Monarchs by a 2-1 score in a 10-inning game played in an hour and 5 minutes at Colorado Springs Broadway Park in Colorado. Yeah, so, boy, you know, Grover Cleveland Alexander was a special guy. After he left the major leagues, he joined the House of David in 1931. And that same year, the Kansas City Monarchs, who had started out with the lights in 1930, they lent their house, their lights to Rail Doan. He was the traveling road manager for the House of David team that Grover Cleveland was on. And Grover Cleveland traveled with the lights, so he's pitching night baseball, and so a lot of people wanted to see night baseball, and a lot of people wanted to see Grover Cleveland Alexander. And the best way to see him was to follow the House of David, especially in 1931 when he first joined the team. He would come out and pitch 1, 2, maybe 3 innings a night. And I always joke and tell people that some nights he couldn't come out and he couldn't pitch that 1 or 2 innings because, well, we'll just say this, he was known to take a nip. Somebody knows what that means. So anyway, Grover Cleveland Alexander, and they're playing in Colorado Springs. Now, I happen to have presented in Colorado Springs. Matter of fact, I presented in Colorado Springs several times. I know Buck O'Neill was also out there before I came too. And then also one time I was speaking out there, and I'm trying to think. A guy came up to me, and he said that he was Bullet Rogan's cousin. And I happen to believe that he was Bullet Rogan's cousin because I had some correspondence from Bullet Rogan's brother, where he was writing someone in Colorado, and so these were some of Rogan's relatives. So whenever Rogan went out there, he would always see them. So, and the Kansas City Monarchs did play in Colorado Springs, and there's a little town called Manitou Springs, so it's right up Colorado Boulevard. If you're out in that area, past the Garden of the Gods, you just keep on going up. It has one of the greatest arcades that you will ever want to see if you've not been in that part of the country. If you ever get to Manitou Springs, you got to go to the arcade. All the machines are at the same price that they were when they came out. So they had penny machines, nickel machines, dime machines, quarter machines, 50-cent machines. And so you take a little kid in there, give him about $5 and change, he'll be in there all day just playing these games. It's just amazing. But I was speaking in Manitou. I got there on a Friday night. I was presenting there, and it was a beautiful day up in Colorado. And my wife was with me. I said, boy, this is just such a beautiful night. I said, if I wasn't presenting, I probably wouldn't come in here myself. But anyway, I went to speak, and it was sponsored by the library. And when I got there, the room was full of people. And the interesting thing was they were serving alcoholic beverages, and it was a pretty wired crowd. And well, we had a great time that night, and that was in Manitou Springs. So, man, I'm well traveled, been around a lot of places. So, who knows? I might have been in your town, wherever you are. So, all right. So let's do one more, and then we'll get on out of here. We're about at the 11:45 mark. How about this one? August 20th, 1938. Wilbur Bullet Rogan played his last game in Kansas City's Ruppert Stadium. That afternoon, Rogan, stationed in his familiar left field position, went 0 for 4 and 0 for 3 in a doubleheader against the Atlanta Black Crackers. Okay, so Wilbur Bullet Rogan, in my estimation, the greatest all-around baseball player that ever lived. I don't make any excuses for that. I actually believe that. I believe he was better than Ruth. I believe he was better than Shani Atani. I believe that he was better than Martin Diego. But this guy was simply outstanding. He's at the end of his career. At that time, he was in his age, he was past his 40s. And he's playing his last games with the Kansas City Monarchs. He actually opened up that stadium. It was opened up in 1923. And at that time, it was Milbach Field. Later on, Colonel Ruppert of the Yankees bought, actually it was 1938. 1937, they were kind of an independent team. Some of the guys who were on there, I remember I talked to Ham Schulte, who went there. He ended up going up to the Phillies, but he was on that team. But in 1938, they're a farm team for the New York Yankees. Colonel Jacob Ruppert on the team, so they changed the name to Ruppert Stadium, and it stayed that way for a few years. Now, by the time the Kansas City A's came, 1955, they changed the name of the same field and put an upper deck on it. So they did some great renovations for it so it could hold more people, and they changed the name to Municipal Stadium. And in 1969, that's where I went to see my first ever professional baseball game. The same place where Rogan played his last game in 1938 was a place where I saw my first professional baseball game. It was actually the Kansas City Royals, believe it or not, against the Oakland Athletics. And I think a week later I came in, and the Red Sox came in and got a chance to see that great Red Sox team that, George Scott and Carl Yastrzemski. Oh man, I can go on, Jim Longberg. Man, it was a great team. We picked up a couple of those players with the Royals. Joe Foy, who had played for the Red Sox, was playing for us at that particular time. So, yeah, I could talk about that too. Been a baseball fan all my life. So, what's the interesting thing about that first game that I went to, I took myself. I was about 13 years old. I got on the bus, transferred, and went to the game myself. And when I came into the park, one of the things I remember was how beautiful the grass was. Everything was in color. I had been watching the game on a black and white TV, and all the colors and the brilliant colors, especially when you're watching the Oakland Athletics, who had those Kelly green and gold uniforms. It just, white shoes. It was just brilliant to watch as a young kid, and to go out there and see those guys. And so that was me growing up. following baseball in Kansas City. So I'm sure that some of you will have some baseball stories yourself. Most people were taken to the baseball game, whether mom or dad or some relative or a neighbor or something like that. But I took myself. I really got this baseball fever, honestly, and God gave it to me at an early age. And I'm still here talking about it and still writing about it. And for the past 40 some odd years, I've been fighting for the Negro League players, fighting for their recognition. And so I'm still doing that and still fighting for a lot of guys, trying to get guys into State Hall of Fames, trying to get them into Cooperstown Hall of Fame. And the work never stops. Let me give you one more, okay? This one, I don't think I want to pass this one up. This one is, let's see, Satchel Paige. This is August 20th, 1948. And hey guys, if you want to look these up, feel free to do that. Don't take my word for it. Go out and look. I try to be as accurate as I can. But hey, if you ever catch me making a mistake, you just let me know. But anyway, Satchel Paige, August 20, 1948. Satchel Paige tossed a 3-hit, 1-0 shutout over the Chicago White Sox in front of 78,382 fans at Cleveland's Municipal Stadium. At that time, that nighttime crowd was an attendance record, and people have been trying to break that record ever since. But that was the record. And that Cleveland Stadium was built in 1931. They were trying to get the Olympics at that particular time, and of course the Coliseum in Los Angeles was also trying to get in. I think the Coliseum actually ended up getting the Olympics. Now, of course, we know Cleveland didn't. But they had this massive stadium, and it was so big that the Indians couldn't hardly play there. So they still stayed at League Park, except on special occasions. But by 1948, they're playing there real regular, and they packed out that park. Interesting about night baseball, of course, you know, the Kansas City Monarchs and the House of David played a major role in rolling out and innovating and promoting night baseball. But when I was coming along, and you know, I talked about some of those teams that I saw, the Red Sox and the Tigers and those kind of teams. I watched the World Series. You know, I remember watching the St. Louis Cardinals. I think it was in the 6th grade. They were in the World Series, 5th or 6th grade. They were in the World Series. And all of those games at that particular time were played in the daytime. And most people don't know that the first nighttime World Series game was played in 1971. That's when Pittsburgh was in the World Series. How about this little trivia? The first time that the entire World Series was played at night was 1985, and it was the Kansas City Royals against the St. Louis Cardinals. That's the first time the World Series was played at all-night games. And how about this one? I had a press pass, and I covered that World Series for the Kansas City Call, and so I was at all the Royals home games. And you can go look back in the archives, and you'll probably find what I wrote about back in 1985. So I think I was I might have been 26, 27 then when I did that. So anyway, just a little baseball history for you, a little facts, and hope you're finding this interesting. These are things that you don't typically get. There's a lot of people who can give you facts, but you know, they can't tell you about some of the people that they interview. And I had the pleasure of interviewing many people, and I talk about that all the time. So this is the baseball history I want to talk about. So before I get out of here, I do want to say thank you for some of the people who've been joining in, and some of the people have come back. I appreciate that too. I see a Braylon Lester. Hello, Braylon. How you doing there? They say hello. And then somebody named Nonchalant. Okay. And let's see. There's a Gavin 13 Boy says hello there. And then it says Bob said, "What's up, Will Smith?" I don't know who the heck is Will Smith. It's not me. I'm Phil Dixon. And then somebody from Boston Sports Cars. Yeah. And then somebody said, "Yo, Martin Luther King Jr." Not sure what that's referring to, but anyway, I'm glad that people are chiming in, and hopefully you're enjoying the broadcast, and we'll try to keep bringing more to you. But this is baseball history, Black baseball history, and along with some Major League Baseball history and the commentary, which is coming from Phil Dixon. And this is a lot of commentary comes from my 40 some odd years as a baseball historian. And before the 40 years started, 20 years before that, I was collecting baseball cards. So maybe 15 years. Started in 1964 when the Beatles came over and invaded America, and made the mistake of taking my Beatles cards to school, and the teachers confiscated them, saying these are toys. And I went back to the store to get more Beatles cards, and they were none there. Only thing left was baseball cards, and here I am today. I started collecting those baseball cards, and so I'm still at it. And now I'm telling the history and just having a great time. So it's about 20 minutes in. I appreciate everyone who's been listening. So I want to sign out for tonight. Feel free to come back tomorrow. I'm not sure what time I'm going to come on. I've got to do some traveling this weekend to do some things. So you might not see me till next Monday, perhaps, or I'll come on early. Okay, thank you guys, and you have a nice day. This is Phil Dixon. I hope you enjoyed this evening's baseball, Black Baseball History, August 20th, 2025. Thank you.